Following amendment, the clerk read the amendment.
Amendment by Farrar.
Chair recognizes Representative Farrar.
Mr. Speaker, members, this amendment would appropriate 1% of the remaining unappropriated revenue to fund a comprehensive study on how to prevent maternal and fetal deaths. Abortion is actually much safer than childbirth. If we want to protect the health and safety of women and children, we are focusing on the wrong issue. Fewer than 1% of all U.S. abortion patients experience a major complication. However, the risk of patients experiencing during childbirth for a complication is actually 10 times higher than that associated with abortion. Texas is also a leader, sadly, in the number of preterm births. We clearly have a lot of work to be done to be able to say that we protect the health and safety of women and children in this state. Texas is near the bottom in the amount of women receiving prenatal care. Did you hear me? Near the bottom of women that receive prenatal care. It also has the highest rate of those without health insurance.
I do.
For the 5th straight year. In 2010, 95 women died as a result of pregnancy or childbearing. In 2010, 13.2% of infants in Texas were born preterm, which is higher than the national rate of 12% and higher than the Healthy People 2010 target rate of 11.4%. The Texas maternal mortality rate has been higher than the national rate since 2008, in fact. In 2010, the maternal mortality ratio in Texas was 24.63, which is higher than the national rate of 19.02. The maternal mortality rate in Texas has increased significantly over the years from 6.06 per 1,000 live births in 1996 to 24.6 per 1,000 live births in 2010. A study to determine how best to prevent maternal and fetal deaths would be extremely useful to the work that we do here.
Mr. Speaker,
Submit staff for what purpose?
will the representative yield for a question?
I do.
I yield.
Where would the funding come from to support this study?
Well, there is remaining unappropriated revenue in the Department of State Health Services, and this money would be 1% of that unappropriated revenue, and it would sum $6.8 million.
$6.8 million?
Correct.
Do we have any data, current data, to suggest that maternal and fetal death is an ongoing problem in this state?
We do, in fact. Data currently indicates that women in the U.S. are more likely to die during childbirth from pregnancy-related deaths than they were over 20 years ago, if you can believe that. And the maternal mortality rate in Texas, as I said, far exceeds the national average.
Representative, do we have any data to indicate why maternal mortality is so high in Texas?
Well, I gave you some reasons that are possibilities, the uninsured rate and such, but I think what we don't have extra concrete data, and that's why I believe we need a study. And if we are going to stand here and say that this is about increasing women's health, I think that this is something that we should pursue, so that once we know what the reasons are, then we can begin to address those reasons in a concrete way.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Laubenberg in opposition.
Okay. Representative Farrar, I again am going to move to table this amendment. Aside from the fact that it puts a fiscal note on this bill, this is something that we can discuss during the next legislative session. And again, the focus on this bill is on the 5-month ban on abortions and the health and safety of the mother. And just in comment that, anyway, I'll just move to table it.
Chair recognizes Representative Farrar to close.
Mr. Speaker, members, I think it's important and it's time that we expand our definition of what life is. I think it just can't be about, it can't be so narrow. It has to be about those... Hello? It has to be about the health of the developing fetus. It has to be about the mother. It has to be about, as I was termed here earlier on the floor, it has to be post-womb. It has to be about all the way to the grave. And I think defining it so narrowly does an injustice to the term. And I think this is a good way to begin to understand why the mortality rate is what it is, and that it's growing. It's growing at a time when science and medicine are developing, and there's no need for that. So I think if we pursue this type of study, it gives us the information as policymakers that we need to be able to make better decisions. Thank you. Oh, I ask you to vote against the motion to table.
Representative Farrar sends up an amendment. Representative Laubenberg moves to table. This is on the motion to table. So record vote, the clerk ring the bell. Show Representative Laubenberg voting aye. Representative Farrar voting no. Have all members voted? Have all voted? The 92 ayes and 54 nays, motion to table prevails. The following amendment, clerk reads the amendment.